Hey everybody, welcome to the Mahoning Marriage Sports Show. I am editor Chris Pugh. Mike Breyer, sportswriter, will be with us shortly, but we have a special guest. Mahoning Valley had two state softball champions, and we're fortunate to have one of them with us, Michael Kernan. He's the coach of the Canfield girls softball team. Michael, congratulations on the state title. How you feeling today after the title?
Thank you. Still feeling pretty good, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Um, What's it like afterwards? I know, like the whole year, you guys are like, yeah, we want to get to the state title game. I know, with you guys, it was a revenge tour angle of it. But what happens that hour afterwards? You know, we get done talking to you. You guys are celebrating. You're talking to the girls. What's the kind of the next level of the excitement there?
Uh, it's tough. It's tough to say. It could be different for everybody. For somebody who's been grinding out as long as I have, you know, the excitement and the tears of joy that have come about. I mean, when we were up 4-0 in the dugout, I had to hold back a couple tears,
Yeah,
to know to finish the game. When we're going afterwards, you enjoying the moment. Before the game, I'm trying to enjoy the moment. Um, but when you actually win after the game, I mean, there's just a feeling that you haven't been here before. And
yeah.
this is what you've been shooting for a long time, putting a lot of practice time, a lot of hours prepping the kids, and it finally happens. Now, with that being said, at the same time, I mean, it is elated and as good as I feel, there's like a burden off my shoulders. One, and two, I don't know if it's 100% sunk in yet, but it's a good feeling either way, and it's all good.
How did you guys celebrate? Did you hang out to watch Fitch? Did you guys go somewhere to eat? Like, did the team do something together? Or how'd that work out?
You know, we ended up we ended up getting back. We got escorted in by the police and fire department. Fire department was, there was fans back at the school. Then we played the "We Are the Champions" in front of the
Yeah.
victory bell. Everyone was doing some dancing. Everyone was ringing the bell. And I think the parents and kids went out on their own after, and us coaches went out on our own a
Cool.
separate way and celebrated in a good manner.
Yeah, I was thinking about, and you talked about like the revenge tour. You talked about how focused you guys were. One of the things that stuck out was like Melina's pitching. You know, she was a good pitcher. She was good enough to take you to the junior game. I mean, the title game her junior year. This year, she turned into a dominant pitcher. I know it's an easy answer to say, "Oh, she worked hard" or "she was focused." What
Right.
kind of gave her that next step? Was it a couple miles per hour on her pitch? I mean, what kind of transported her from a really good pitcher to, oh my gosh, she's dominant. She's going to lead us to the state title.
Yeah, that was just part of the 2-year relationship and growth experience we had. I call it, I'm an intangible type of guy. There's always that extra out there of believing, of confidence, of, and Milena went out and made it, got herself better. In the
Mm-hmm.
off season, what did she work? She worked on a lot of different stuff. She definitely didn't say, take a back seat and sit on, hey, we were state runner up. We didn't talk about it much. She didn't say much about it. But I knew there was fuel in that tank, extra fuel in that tank from the state runner up lost the year before. But she grew from that and just got herself better in a lot of different ways. But the intangible piece of it too was a factor. I'm not sure if there was anything that could have stopped her.
How, what's it like? Because I know there were a couple games that ended up like 5-3, but usually in high school softball, when you get that number one pitcher and that number one pitcher throws shutouts and, you know, can dominate for the year, it's not a guaranteed state title, but it really is kind of propels you to that. What's it mean as a coach to have something like that? Because that's not always guaranteed. Sometimes you have a couple good pitchers or whatever, but to have a dominant pitcher, does it make your job a lot easier?
I I enjoyed it. I had fun with
Yeah.
it. It came to fruition with the state championship. And I've had a lot of great pitchers. It was she, she was the best. We're in
Mhm.
Division 2. but we also the team knew, Milena knew that we needed to score runs, and this was a team effort. No matter
Mhm.
how good she was, how dominant she was, we still had to score runs off very good teams, very good hitting. We still had to play defense against some very good hitting teams. So they still knew it was a team thing that it needed to accomplish this whole reward.
Yeah, I'm thinking too. I'm sure she's not pitching every practice, but your teammates to go up against her, that probably has to help them be a better team, right? Like when you
It
have a good
was
pitcher like that, does that help the offense too? I'd
that,
imagine.
that's an interesting question in our off-season workouts or our preseason workouts. Everyone says, "Oh, go face your own pitching." Well, we had three or four pitchers. We
Right,
only
right.
saw one this year. If you throw Milena against, and we did throw Milena against them a little bit early.
Yeah,
That's a double-edged sword. You got to work the
right.
kids' confidence in the right way, and you got to make sure you're I'm not a 100% fan of the live pitching to your own team for different reasons, but I also think they still need that live pitching and for preparation and practice. So you can only do that so much, and when you have a dominant pitcher, you're going to be careful for the offense's
Right.
confidence too.
Yeah, I always wonder about that. How does that work in high school softball? Obviously, with the arms, you could pitch people back to back. Is there a is there a time when you would have to take her out? I mean, obviously, pitchers like that could pitch back to back. Can they pitch like a third straight day? I mean, how does that work in
You,
softball compared to baseball?
you could pitch 3 straight days. I mean,
Okay.
you definitely pay attention to it. I'm a coach who likes the players to have rest. We got to be well conditioned. That whole package needs managed. Your pitchers need to be rested. Can they throw 3 days in a row? We chart pitches. How many pitches did she throw this game? Once you get to a certain point, you really want to pay attention and be cautious to what extent you want to throw. The back-to-back games or 3 games in a row, you're just that's just something you manage throughout the season, and every player is different. Every player has more endurance, and again, your conditioning in the off season helps prep all that too.
Obviously, all of your players play good for you to get that state title, but it's always interesting. Like sometimes I think about any sport, like when you get to title game, sometimes there's this unsung hero. Like you count on Melina to have a good game, but like Kaylee, the girl that had a couple of key hits, I mean, she had a good year, but maybe she may not be the first person people think of when they think about a key hit. What was it like with her? I think I asked her about that after the game, but was there more of a confidence with her? Was there just like a, hey, I'm ready to take the mantle and have those key hits? Like, I wonder what goes into athlete when they think about that. It's not just luck that they hit the hit that gets through, but was she more excited before the game or something like that?
She's the one who got stung by a bee before the game,
Right, right,
but
definitely.
she honestly. So when we're in our off season workouts, and she wasn't a basketball player, so she's a freshman turning into a sophomore. And when we're doing these workouts in the off season, you're watching these kids mentally and physically mature. There's a lot of maturing going on when you're a freshman to a senior, that's for sure,
Yeah.
with these young ladies. Um, but so you don't know who's that next in line, and when they show up and they work their tail off and they're getting themselves better, and then you're playing some scrimmages. We're allowed November 1st to February 1st. You're allowed to scrimmage indoors, and I'm allowed to coach them. So we got a lot of workouts there, and there are some kids that you're watching, and you're like, these kids could be a difference maker.
Yeah.
So with Kaylee Ortiz, I mean, she's one of those kind of that came out of nowhere, where I'm watching her like, this kid has talent. This kid could hit. She could pitch too, and so you got to let that play out. You don't know who's gonna, as you're going down the finish line, running that dash, competing for that position. You just don't know who's going to be that next player who's that next player that's going to come out. So at the beginning of the season, I told my coaching staff, I go, I'm just telling you guys now, Kaylee Ortiz needs to be in this lineup, and they're looking at me like, are you, you're kidding me. So we play Fitch the first game of the year, and Sydney Watts throws a one hitter against us. She gets the one hit. We play when we played them the second time and won 2-1, she hit a 2-run double off the fence. And you're just like, this kid gets it done. Against Brooke Tater when we were tied 6-6, she hit a home run in extra innings. And you're just like, kid gets it done. When we played Triway, who was a top team in Division III with a Georgia Tech commit pitcher, she roped one off the wall there on her. And you're just like, her average wasn't the highest, but the kid sure know how to hit in some crunch time. So, she just kind of came out and then she ends up catching a little bit on fire in states, and obviously we're going to take it.
Well, and that's got to be cool too, because obviously when you go to next year, you're losing some key people, but then you can probably look at hers and say, "Wow, she's ready." I mean, she did that at the state tournament. How many kids are you losing this year?
So we have 4 seniors.
Okay,
and they were great seniors. And we talk about the off-season program, and I talk about my first season being a little bit of a building block. We had 8 seniors the first year. And I keep talking about those seniors because they laid such an incredible foundation to work ethic, great attitude, which carried over this year to our 4 seniors: Faith Morrell, Jessica Shugart, JJ Shugs, I call her, Macy Kalina, and Milena Toth. So Macy played basketball, but between Jess, Faith, and Milena, I don't know if they missed a workout all winter. We're going 3 or 4 days a week, and they're leading these younger kids. So, we're going to lose those 4, but I expect the seniors, the juniors turning into seniors, to pick up where these 2 classes left off. So we're losing 4 players, 3 of them solid starters.
Well, and we're joined by Mike Brown, who's our sports writer, and Mike does a poll every week talking about who are the best teams in Mahoning Marist area, and it was like, Fitch, Canfield were 1-2. Mike, I talked to Michael about Canfield and Fitch playing a couple times early in the year. Maybe you can ask about Canfield and Fitch.
Right. I mean, when you think about it, Coach, think about how great the softball is in the greater Mahoning Valley area. You have Fitch, you have Canfield, you have Champion, you have Matthews, you have South Range. Could it be any better than it is in our area?
We have the bar set pretty high, and I think people throughout Ohio, maybe the country, see that a little bit, but definitely in Ohio, people have a circle around this area that's well deserved.
Yeah. Congratulations on your state title. I'm not surprised by that one iota. And the scary thing, with 7 divisions next year, is Canfield going to be a 3 or a Division 4?
I don't know yet, but we're borderline. Yeah,
man, I'll tell you what, Canfield in Division 3 and Division 4. Oh my goodness, that you got to be thrilled about that. I mean, when I think of the statewide in Division 3 or Division 4, Canfield will be right up there every year.
Yeah, 3's going to be a little stiffer, but 4. Yeah. But we'll compete. we'll compete for sure. Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, definitely. Well, again, congratulations on the state title. What's it like? I mean, I know Fitch did 2 years in a row. I know they were talking about how hard it is. What's the conversation like with the girls as you look at that? I mean, I know you want to set, a major goal, but obviously you want to get back and try winning it if you can next year, right?
Yeah, we're gonna keep that barrier set up there. I mean, there's no reason not to think we can't beat anybody we play in districts. There's no reason to think there's nobody we can't beat in region. Otherwise, I mean, why put the effort in? You give me one game against this team, we're going in that we can beat them. We're going to give them everything we have. So we feel confident. And we have a lot of talent on this team. We're losing the 3 seniors, but we had 3 or 4 kids on our bench that probably would have started in 95% of the lineups throughout Ohio. I mean, so we're going to be reloading pretty well. Again, it's the Milena Toth that's a big difference maker. But I like what we have following her up, but it's not going to be a Milena Toth.
Well, I love how the seniors set the example. I mean, people see Milena taking that big leap forward from junior to senior year. So maybe you have other guys in the team, like maybe Kaylee, who says, wow, if she can do it, I can do that. So you never know what next year will bring. I guess why I was asking that was there any other conversation say, all right, guys, let's get back here next year? I mean, have you had that talk? If you haven't, I'm sure we have it coming up soon in the off-season training, right?
Right now, we're on break.
Okay.
We actually have we honestly, we went at it. I really had to manage our days off throughout the weeks, which weren't many, but we always had to have at least a day off. I mean, honestly, we really went at it probably since October, November last year. Took about 7 to 8 days off in between the end of the before the official start date in late February. And I just got a chuckle because the kids didn't want to take off. I'm like, you guys need a break. We got to refresh. Yeah. And then during the season, you got to take your break here and there, day off here and there, and refresh. So right now, though, we're in a good week. But I'll see you at the banquet this week, too.
Yeah. Coach, I did want to ask you, you look at all the most successful teams, no matter what the sport, it seems like these athletes train year-round when they can. Is that a big part of it?
Yeah, that's separating players these days, especially the skill it takes in softball. I mean, if you're hitting every day or pitching every day and conditioning every day, I mean, you have no choice but to get better with the right attitude. Yeah. So, and kids are doing it. You got the kids who are picking one sport and focusing on that and excelling that. That's just, but I like the kids to play a second sport because I think they need it for just having a break. If they play three, they play three. But so yeah.
But when you think of the history of Canfield sports, especially girls sports, I mean, all the teams that have gone to state in basketball and now softball, and I mean, it's just tremendous.
Well, that's what I said when I came over here. Yeah, this is just traditionally rich in
Oh,
men's and female sports, and I'm sure I'm going to like what I see, and it worked out.
Well, once again, Coach, congratulations, state tall team. Yep. You need a break. I was kidding. I was hoping for a game 3 between you guys and Fitch. I thought we could just put it on the field right after the Division I game, but I'll let you guys take a break though. So
this is what I'm doing. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to have fun.
There you go.
Yeah, enjoy it a little bit for
absolutely.
We'll get back to work for sure.
Well,
congrats. Have a great day, Coach. Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Michael Kernan, the coach of Canfield. They won the state title with a big 4-0 win over Bryan. Mike, this is good. We get to decompress after a big week of state tournaments. I will tell you, it was interesting. I was there for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It was a long weekend, but a good weekend.
Yeah.
Milena Toth, who's Canfield's #1 pitcher, dominant. I mean, I think you could probably raise questions on, is it Milena Toth or Sydney Watts? And, maybe they're 1A, 1B in the area. They're not separated by much, but it was clear from the semis to the finals, Milena dominated. She had a no-hitter going into the seventh inning of the semifinal game, and I think it was a 2-hit shutout in the final game, but she was dominant, 2 shutouts in a row. And, they need much runs, but when they got the runs, they had it. And Kaylee, the young girl that Coach was talking about, she was near the bottom of the lineup, but she had a couple real big hits that kind of propelled Canfield to win. So, congratulations to her. We have coaches on the show. We're excited about that. And Mike, in about 12 minutes, Steve Ward, the coach of the Austintown Fitch state championship team.
Right.
And my goodness, Mike, let me tell you about them a little bit. I'll have to ask him. They were saying the stat at the trophy presentation after they won their second straight state title. They defeated Watkins Memorial 4-0. They outscored their opponents, and Mike, you referenced this throughout the year. I think it was like 240-14.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah. And the interesting thing is sometimes you might say, well, they were so dominant. Who did they face? The team they faced in the state title team was Watkins Memorial. They've won 120 games over the last 4 years. They've been, right to the end of the state tournament. I know the writer down there who covers them for the Newark Advocate. He was pointing out to me in the press box, the pitcher that pitched for Watkins Memorial had not given up a run the whole tournament.
That's
From the sectionals and the districts all the way to the state final game.
Right.
Austintown Fitch, they're a true buzzsaw. I mean, they could probably beat any other team, maybe with the exception of Canfield. But it was amazing what they did, and they won the game 4-0. Sydney Watts just was amazing. I mean, she's the best in Ohio. And she had a home run. I mean, she's a powerful hitter. She hit one over the bullpen in left field in the final game. She had another home run in the semifinal game. She pitched a perfect game in the semifinal game. And they got key hits. Alea Ray had a big home run for them too. And again, this is against a Watkins team that, they may not have the accolades that Fitch had this year, but they're not a bad team at all. I mean, they didn't play an inferior team. It was a great win. I will say too, we also had a couple other teams that made it really far. South Range, it was interesting. They lost the final 5-3, and they lost to Liberty Union in the Central Ohio area. It was interesting, Mike. South Range came in as a better team. And the coach said that after the game. And our YouTube that we posted a video, there was a couple people saying, how dare he say that? They were a better team of Liberty Union. They just had a tough game. They had really good pitching. Their starting pitcher gave up 10 walks. She had a tough day. The coach said so after the game. But they still hung in there. They almost beat Liberty Union 5-3. So they finished as a state runner-up. And then Matthews, it was interesting. They made it in Division 4. Tight game against Monroeville. It was one of those games that either team could have won. Monroeville won it at the end, but they had a really good year too. Mike, I was going to ask you, you were talking about Division 4. Were you able to go to the Strasburg game?
Absolutely. They set the all-time Ohio record, Chris, won their 10th state title. Nobody's ever done that in the history of Ohio High School Athletic Association softball. And they won 10-0 over Monroeville in that title game. And we're just overwhelmed. And the amazing thing about Strasburg, Chris, is 16 of those 18 starters come back next year. So they're incredible. It's just I don't know if I've in 50 years of covering high school sports, I don't know if I've ever seen a team in a sport dominate like that. When you've won 10 state titles, and they broke the tie, they were tied with Warren Champion and Akron Springfield prior to this state tournament with 9 state titles, and they went out and won, and now they have the all-time record.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think. You could make the argument that Fitch and Canfield are headed in that direction. And even good teams like Champion and South Range and even Matthews. But 10 years. I mean, you think you might have one like amazing athlete, like one amazing girl that comes in and she's like the LeBron James of softball and you win 4 that way. Well, she's only able to stay for 4 years. They won 10. So it's like a conglomeration of the various classes of amazing people. And, as you know, state titles, I mean, they're won. Good teams win them, but they're hard to win. I mean,
they are. You have to have luck, too. You've got to be good, and you've got to have luck, too. You got to have one game where you get a lucky bounce or something like that. I hear coaches that have won state titles say that over and over again, Chris.
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to find it. It was quite the scene at Strasburg. I think I walked in there.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, I think I walked in there, probably a couple minutes after the game started. But it was the press box was full. I think I was standing in one of the aisleways for the first game, and I watched that. And then I finally went back to the media room to set up for the Canfield game. But, Strasburg looked good. They were really impressive. And,
the whole town supports them, Chris. I got there an hour and a half before the game started. And there was no space on media row. I sat in the stands to cover that game. I mean, that's how packed it was. It was just, they are so impressive. The whole town gets behind that. It's Americana at its best. I really love the small town aspect of that. And everybody wants to get behind the team and see them do well. And it played out great for the Tigers again.
Again, congratulations to Matthews. Again, I looked at that game. with Monroeville as kind of like a heads up, toss up thing.
Yeah.
If Matthews would have gotten past Monroeville, man, Strasburg would have been a tall duty for him. But again, to get to the state Final Four is an impressive fact himself. So it was a really good weekend. And it was interesting. Like I said, the South Range coach took a little bit of heat online for some of his comments, but I got to defend him. I mean, when you're the coach, you're behind your girls. You're going to say, hey, these girls could win. And, he mentioned it a couple times, and maybe the other writers in the room didn't understand who Gabby Grashar was. But he's like, look, we beat Gabby Grashar.
That's right.
And Gabby Grashar would have been a girl that if Champion would have made it, we would have been saying Sydney Watts, Melina Toth, Gabby Grashar. So, I got to defend the South Range coach. There's people out there online that, want to get a little grumpy about, but look, he's defending his girls. I think South Range came there as a better team. Congratulations to Liberty Union. Obviously, they made the plays to win the game, but man, South Range came in good, and for as tough as a game they had, they still fought hard and they played pretty tough. We want to talk some track and West Branch too, but we're a couple minutes away from Steve Ward coming in. So let me just kind of not vent, but just say a little bit more about Fitch. My goodness, it was interesting. I got a chance to see Canfield. I haven't had a chance to see Fitch yet. You just don't know. Like, you sit here and say, Mike's talked about the score differential and everything. What are they like in real life? Are they that good or whatever else the case might be? They were good. Their semifinal game, it was like 1-0 going into the fourth inning. And, 1-0 with Sydney Watts is the game's probably over. But you were like going, well, has the offense really caught on? They had a 9-run fourth inning, and you were like, my goodness, it's over. And then, now you have the run rule coming in. Sydney Watts comes to the top of the fifth with a 10-run lead, and you're like, okay, are they going to get a base runner? You weren't worried about them being a 10-run inning. It was, they've got 6, from what I understood, there were like 6 batters hitting over 400. We talked to them after the semifinal game, and they have this confidence, and it's not an annoying confidence. It's not, man, these guys are stuck up. It's we're good. We know we're good. And everything else. And, I know Watkins Memorial had a really good team as well. They had a pitcher with 300-plus strikeouts. But I got to tell you, after seeing what I saw, I'm sitting here like, they're winning. It was just unbelievable what they're able to do.
Right. Yeah, they're so good, Chris. When you think about it, our top 3 teams in our final softball poll, 2 of them won state titles. That's how good our area is. Fitch and Canfield, I'd put them up against anybody. And think about Warren Champion probably should have been, we got South Range of State, but those 2 teams both were state caliber teams, but they had to play each other in the regional. So one of them doesn't get there, but I really think Champion was really good with Gabby Grashar this year too. So, when you think about it, I believe we have 3 or 4 pitchers from our area who are D1 college commits. That's how good it is. That's incredible.
Yeah, Watts is going to Georgia Tech. I believe Toth's going to Buffalo. Not sure about Gabby Grashar.
I think Gabby Grashar, I believe the last I saw, I think it was Pitt. I had seen as a commit to Pitt, but that could, or it was either Pitt or Penn State. Correct me on that, but I think it's one of those 2.
All right. Well, just a great weekend for softball. And speaking of a great weekend, Steve Ward, the coach of Austintown Fitch, now joins us.
What's up, guys?
Yeah,
hey, how's it going, Steve? Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Just still on cloud 9.
And we were just flabbergasted. We're going to talk about your girls in a second, but we were just talking about Mahoning Valley softball. My goodness, we have you guys, we have Canfield, we have South Range. That the coach was saying it was a tough game. They struggled at times. They were still right in there till the very end. And then South Range was talking about, man, they defeated Gabby Grashar in Division III. That's a team that probably could have been the state final game if they got past South Range. And you had Matthews who made it too. We all talk about, hey, our area's the best or whatever, but my goodness, what is it about softball in Mahoning Valley? What are we doing different here than we're doing in other areas of the state?
I got to say, it's just the seriousness that our players and families take. And once you start having success, then the younger kids start to see what success looks like and the road path to success, that they start younger and younger and younger. So, for us in Austintown, we had a wonderful run in the 12U Little League World Series. And, those kids are coming up, they're watching our kids, they were at the games, they're cheering them on, and they're seeing what that, the high level of success we're having, they want to emulate it. And then the younger kids from, 10U, 8U are watching the 12U, and it just builds momentum. And we're living in a wonderful softball time here in the Mahoning Valley.
Absolutely.
Do you have are they asking like people like Sydney and everything? Are some of the girls asking and saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" Is there some of those conversations going back and forth about show me what you do, or are you sleeping more at night? What are you eating? Help you get stronger?
Well, we try to, definitely show the student athlete side, the student part of it, and really taking care of yourself and being a great role model. And our players take that so seriously. And they do have conversations. Parents have conversations. The younger parents talk to our pitching coach, Becky Spalding, on, what do they need to do? Or, it is truly a softball community. It's not like we're here, travel ball's there, Little League is here. It's all of us together. And, even when we talk about travel ball, our girls are teammates with some of the girls in Canfield, in South Range, and Vienna Matthews.
Yeah.
Speaking of the team, Mike's covered sports for 50 years. I've covered sports for probably 20 years now. It seems like sometimes when you look at state title team, you're like, wow, what a senior laden class. They're seniors. They're going to be leaving. You're have to replace a lot of people. I was stunned. I always assumed Sydney Watts was a senior for how great she was. But she's not. She's coming back next year. You have one senior that's leaving, and I'm sure she's going to leave a hole you have to replace. But what's it been like to have underclassmen take on these senior roles and take on these dominant roles? This doesn't happen that often.
Well, we do have two seniors leaving, and Ayla Ray and Vita Kelty.
Two, okay.
And both of them did such a dynamic job for us this year. Both played great roles for us, and we're going to be very sorry to see both of them go. It's always sad to see, people that you've gotten to know, love, and respect. And, it's just kind of the way of life. They're going to move on and do great things. But yes, to only have two seniors graduate from the team and have a core nucleus of people coming back, I'm very thankful. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, how do you develop that leadership with the juniors? Not the juniors can't show leadership, but to have all the juniors there doing well, I mean, that's got to be a skill that takes a while to develop, I guess, right?
We really focus on ownership, that the girls take ownership of the team. And, it's also shared leadership. So it's not all on one shoulder. That's never works out well. It's that there are different people that lead different things, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's at practice, whether it's, getting together, the team together for a hangout. There's just so many different aspects that our girls excel in, that's what makes them such a wonderful close group, is that it's not just one person saying, I'm saying this, let's all follow. It's, hey, we are saying all these, we are going to follow.
Yeah. Coach, the fact that you've been to state now all these years and had so much success at the highest level, do you think that helps the team just go out and play the game? Like some of these teams, I covered some of the games over the weekend, they were making their first appearance in the state tournament, and you could tell, there were the nerves and things like that, where when you've been there and done that, does that make a difference?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because everything gets so magnified. And when you're in the sectional or district tournament, that's usually a pretty local spot that you're, together with. And then you start getting into regionals, and, you got more officials, you got tournament directors that are very, demanding more of you have certain times that you warm up, certain times you have to be on the field or off the field. And then state, it just gets magnified. And then you're warming up and you're hearing the roar of the crowd for the other teams that are playing. And you're like, ooh, that's pretty interesting. And then to go out there and just to have that behind us and know we did it and we had the ability to do it again. That was, again, a big message throughout the tournament, is we've been here and we don't have to access a new level. We don't have to be anything more than just ourselves, because ourselves are pretty darn good.
Oh, yeah.
Mike and I were talking. I remember at the semifinal game, you guys were up 1-0 after 4 innings.
Yep.
And it's one run. You never know. I mean, things could happen in one inning. With Sydney Watts, I kind of felt like, okay, they're in control. And then you guys had the big inning and you ran away with it. so much has been said about Sydney Watts. How do you compare? I mean, I'm sure she's probably the best pitcher you've had on your team throughout the years, but you look at she's going to Georgia Tech. So much of said about her nationally. How does she rank nationally? I know this kind of sounds like we're saying a lot here, but I mean, she's been so dominant. I mean, how does she rank to other people in the country? What do you think?
I think that she is definitely a top 5 pitcher in the nation. And, I'm going to be a little biased. I think she's the number 1 pitcher in the nation.
Yeah.
I mean, just truly with what she does, how she's able to, reach back when we need it, manage when we need it, work around batters when, we have to get those ground outs or pop outs. Just her IQ knowledge of the game is just outstanding. It's amazing to see.
Yeah. From talking to her, she's a leader. I have no reason to question that. What do you tell somebody like her? Because she's a junior. I mean, she's coming back next year. I'm sure she has that focus. She's not going to let it get away. But what more challenges can she face other than the definite, hey, can you three-peat? I mean, what goes into preparation for next year? Because usually you don't see someone as a 2-time state winner coming back for that third year. Is there another reign of challenge you could throw at her to even motivate her even more for a senior year?
Yes, I have some ideas in mind, but I know right now that Sydney's not satisfied with what she's done. She's going to keep working forward and keep saying, okay, I'm going to lay out 5 goals that I want to do for my senior year. And she's going to work towards those goals nonstop. So another great thing about this team is I don't have to manufacture challenges or challenge them. They challenge themselves. They hold themselves to a high standard. They hold their teammates to a high standard.
The one thing I've noticed about all the teams at state this year, coaches, it seems like there's a camaraderie. These teams get along so well on the field, but off the field too. Is that the way it is with the Fitch team as well?
Yeah. Again, with everybody playing travel ball, everybody knows each other throughout that. And, there's so much love and respect that goes on because as coaches, we understand what our players go through in terms of the academic work, the practice times, and just everything that comes up throughout a season. And as coaches, we respect one another because we always know that, no season goes perfect without any issues or anything going on. So, there's so much mutual respect among teams.
How'd you guys celebrate after the game? I know it was kind of like a later night, and I know there's a lot of afterglow of you guys hanging out afterwards. Did you guys go out to eat together, or what was it like on your way home to Austintown? Just so many text messages, so many well wishes coming in. It's amazing to see the outpouring and just how much people appreciate these, the girls and the team. A lot of us ended up at BW3s. It was great. I got to have a nice dinner with my dad and my son, and then we had some players in there. We had some other parents in there, and it's just a great atmosphere. Like I said, we're living in great times right now.
Yeah, we are. I love high school sports. There's a purity about it that you just can't match in anything else, Coach.
It's amazing.
Yep. We talked about this a little bit in the press conference, but the Canfield Fitch matchup, that seemed to me a lot. Like you were talking about, and your players were talking about, it seemed to really prepare you guys well for the year because, you don't usually see state title teams playing each other in the regular season. That had to have a big boost for you guys on the match?
We knew Canfield had 1 goal in mind. Well, 2 goals in mind. Was 1 to defeat us and then to win state. And, that was kind of in our mind too with, tying last year. And so this year we split. And, what can I say is our 1 loss is to the Division II state championship team. And when I was watching them play, because, we had some time to watch them before we started our routine and warm-ups, you could just tell that they were locked in, they were ready, and they weren't going to back down an inch. So congratulations to Canfield, Coach Kernan, staff, just what an amazing job they did all season long. But yes, that game, again, you look at, there's moments where you can't manufacture the emotions. You can't manufacture the crowd noise or the pressure situations in a practice. You could always try to mentally get them ready. Hey, it's going to be loud. It's going to be this, but to be in that game and know that, there were people from other communities, other softball teams that weren't playing that night. People showed up because they wanted to see that matchup. So again, that just helps drive the championship mindset.
Coach, with the new 7-division format being rolled out next year, will Fitch be a D1 or will you be a D2 next year? Any idea about that?
Looking at the projections, looks like we'll be D2, but I've already informed our athletic director that we're requesting to move up to Division 1.
Okay,
oh,
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to request yet. The date hasn't come out, but I've let him know what my team and what our intentions are, because the girls, when they found out that chances are we're going to be Division II, they were not happy. They said, no, we're a Division I team.
Repeat in D1. Yep. Yeah, I could understand that.
So there's no calculus to say what's Division II like compared to Division I. You guys are just saying, hey, we've won Division I 2 years in a row. We want to do it again. Is that the thought?
Yeah. Again, and throughout the season, and that's going to go into next season, is it's not about who we play, it's about us. And as long as we keep improving, we keep challenging ourselves, we keep adding different dimensions and layers and execution, again, we really don't concern ourselves with who we play.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's so impressive about you guys. There was a quiet confidence. Like sometimes you look at a team and you're like, oh man, they're cocky. You guys have this quiet confidence. I'm sure maybe it seems like hockey to some people, but it's a confidence that you know who you guys are and you know what you need to have done.
We're a team that just likes to have fun.
Yeah.
And, our players have known each other since 6-7 years old. They played with each other for, over 10 years. And it's such a special time that you get 4 years to play with kids you grew up with. And we're just going to have fun with it. We're going to make the memories that we can. We're going to have the most fun we can. And one of my quotes is, I always say we're one of the most serious, unserious teams that you're going to see, because we're goofy pregame. We're loud in the dugout during the game. We just have fun. And, but that I don't want to say the fun stops, but you see when they, get in the circle in the box, they're ready.
Yeah.
And it's like a different demeanor that comes out.
You guys have my favorite celebration. Because I saw after both of Sydney's home runs, what was it? Did they fall back? She was like a bowling ball?
It's called the shockwave.
Oh, okay. So she jumps on home plate,
Yep,
and everyone falls back. Oh,
yeah.
that was awesome. I love that. What's next? I mean, obviously you're preparing for the next year and hopefully a three-peat, but what's next? Are you guys going to take a break, or are you guys going to warm up a little bit? Like, what's next in your preparation for next year?
We really don't do a whole lot of softball related during the summer because of their heavy travel schedules, and we want to respect them. And it's your travel season. We're going to come support. I want to see your stats, and I want to come see you live if I can and support you. But in terms of us getting together and doing softball work, we're not really big into that. I think that's just too much on their plate. And then most we do is we lift 2-3 times a week during the summer, and that'll start up in about 2-3 weeks. And so we'll keep them in the weight room just to try and keep them strong. So that helps their travel season as well, keeping their strength up. Sure. So like I said, we won't really start to get going with open gyms until October-ish.
Well, I was kind of hoping for that round 3. I was joking if you guys have to Canfield Fitch, but I guess we'll let you guys take a break. You guys deserve it.
Well, right. The hardest thing with that, and I've seen some online stuff, people coming up with ideas of different fundraisers for different things and stuff like that. And I think all of us are interested into it. It's just logistically, it's just not going to happen with everybody's travel schedule. Right. We narrowed down one date in June where we have 95% of our players available for the banquet. Only one date.
Wow.
And so it's unfortunate that, some kids got to miss out on some things, and it really stinks. But it's just the life that they lead in the summer is that they're gone. I mean, you look at our players; they're not just playing an hour away; they're playing 3, 4, 5, 6 states away, and going across the country to California and Colorado, down to Florida, down to Alabama, Tennessee. I mean, they're all over the place. So it's hard to get them all together.
Well, it's a hat tip what you did to your program, because you have to have a good program for them to be invited to play all over the place.
Of course,
so,
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
You guys did what you did. Well, Steve, thanks for coming on. Congratulations on the season. Just blown away. We've talked about you guys all year. I haven't been able to get the game to the state semifinals, and I was blown away. A very good team. So congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Great summer. I'm sure we'll be talking soon next year. So
I hope so. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Coach.
All right, Steve Ward from Austintown Fitch. Thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, just blown away. I mean, they're a good team. They have that quiet confidence. They know it, and my goodness, and so many good players. I know sometimes, Mike, when you have a limited amount of time with somebody, you have to hit the treetops.
Right.
But they had. I mean, the Ward sisters. One of them's graduating, one's coming back. She's young and she looked good in the state final game too. So many good players in that team. It's not just Sydney Watts, but Sydney Watts has been so dominant. It's hard not to mention her when you have 10 minutes to talk about Austintown Fitch. So.
Yep. Well, what a great year for softball. I can't, and as good as softball is in our area, I don't think we've ever had a year like that. I mean, although next year could be just like it again, especially with 7 divisions, Chris. I'm telling you, that's going to open the door for teams that have gotten to the regional before that are probably going to get to state starting next year. So we are going to be very busy in a good kind of way next spring with all these great teams. How about Fitch going to be in D1, opting to be in D1? I can understand that. You want to try and have a try title in D1 in the division you'd already won twice before.
Well, yeah, that took me off guard. I was expecting to see that.
Yeah.
We talked about that last week, and I think part of the thing we were saying is not that anybody was afraid of going to Division One, but the thought would be is, okay, if you're a smaller team, do you really want to go up against a Division One teams all the time with a lot of kids in the school? Does it make your path that much harder? Right. But think about it. There are exceptions out there, and for a team like Fitch, they dominated in Division One the last 2 years. Is it an afterthought if they say, okay, we'll be Division Two, we'll stay there? No, they want to go up to Division One.
I wondered when they rolled that out, Chris, that teams can voluntarily go up to Division One in all sport. I think in most of the sports next year. I wondered if anybody was going to, and sure enough, Fitch is going to do it.
Yeah, I was about, if we had more time left ago, I was going to say, who the heck would do that? But I think Fitch, as we just heard, was a real notable exception. So just like I said, just to wrap up softball, just a fantastic year. And you said it. And my apologies for the oversight. There was 2 kids from Fitch graduating, but still only 2 kids graduating from Fitch.
Yep.
That's amazing. And the 2 kids that lost are good players, but there's a ton more good players that still reside on Fitch. They're not they're losing key pieces, but there's an avalanche of talent coming up through the mix there. And Canfield, losing 4 seniors, a little more seniors, but they still got a good class coming back.
And they'll probably be in Division 4 next year. Canfield Division 4 is just incredible to think about in all sports, Chris. That's just they're going to challenge for state. I'm telling you, take this prediction for me. They're going to challenge to go to state almost, I would think, every year in a lot of sports in Division 4. It's incredible. I think they're just in most of the sports. I think they're only like 2 girls under Division 3, although that could change. There's some other numbers that have to come out. But if they're going to be in 4 next year, oh my goodness, will they be something?
Well. And here's another thing I was thinking about. Isn't Gabby Grashar just a junior, I believe?
Yes, she's back too. And, Champion, I'll be anxious to see what division they're in because obviously they're going to drop down too. They were a 3.
Yeah.
Well, I know they'll be a 4 or a 5. And that could help them too because it depends. If they're small enough, they would be away from South Range and you wouldn't have those 2 power teams meeting in the regional. If they're separated, then those are both teams that are going to get the state, I think.
Well, I kind of wonder. It's a dangerous game to play because you never know sometimes.
Right, you don't.
But look at South Range. Gabby Grashar may be the best pitcher in Division 3. And when the South Range coaches look, these pitchers we're facing in the state finals weren't like the Gabby Grashar.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit out here and suggest that teams are too afraid to play Warren Champion. But I guess what I'm saying is if you sit here and you say, wow, we had to overcome a really, really good Warren Champion team. Yeah. Is there a way we could get past that?
Yeah.
Are some teams even looking to jump, even for reasons like that? You don't want to do things because you're afraid of a certain team, but you might sit there and say, holy cow, our regional is really difficult. How do we create maybe easier pathways? And I'm not saying South Range is going to Division 1 next year, but I guess what I'm saying is sometimes does that mindset come into it too, saying who are you facing? Who are your opponents you have to face? So
there's also a correlation with all these teams that get to state and win state titles in their regular season schedules. They load their schedules up. So really when they get in the tournament, after what they faced in the regular season, the tournament is pretty manageable. because they face the best in this state and in other states in the regular season. When they go to these tournaments in Myrtle Beach and all over the country, they see these other great teams from other states, and I think that really prepares them for the postseason.
Yeah, definitely. And you look at it too, and I know each sport is different. Sometimes the apples and oranges when you compare softball to golf or football or whatever the case might be. But how many times do you see, like, okay, look at coming into this year, Canfield and Fitch. They're, we're scheduling games against each other and everything. You don't see that happen often.
No,
you don't see state champs, playing each other in the regular season. So,
Right.
and we asked the question of both the coaches, and they said, "Hey, it's a way we can get better." And I know Leah Ray, when I asked that during the press conference, she was like, "Yeah, playing Canfield twice helped us.
Absolutely,
helped us get there, helped us get more confidence." So,
iron sharpens iron. Yep.
Yeah, and it's not just something the coaches said; it's something the players are saying too, which is really interesting.
Yep.
Well, I mean, man, we've done about 50 minutes of softball. I could probably do another 50 minutes, but a couple other really big things happened over the weekend. We ran your story this morning about the state track meet, and we congratulated the top 8 finishers throughout the state. Did anything jump out at you from the winners over the weekend?
Well, I noticed. I think we probably did our best in the small school ranks. We had our most state place winners in Division III, and again next year we're going to have, I believe, from what I hear, 4 divisions in track. So that's going to open the door for a lot of our track athletes come next spring. But we did our best in Division III this year. Had some state champions from Lowellville in Division III, and did pretty well overall. I think we had 4 or 5 place winners in Division I, and quite a few in Division II, but the most in Division III. So a good year. The state meet was at Welcome Stadium in Dayton this year. And congratulations to everybody. I mean, I think we did pretty well overall.
Yeah, a big story with all the winners, like the number of winners on there. One name that jumped out to me was Michael Malone. We talked about him. He had a really good quarterback year for Louisville.
Absolutely.
He plays how many? I'm seeing 3 times, I think.
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah.
Had a great state tournament. Great state tournament.
Oh, I'm thinking 4. I think I'm actually seeing or maybe a 5th. Holy cow. Well, let me go over this really quick. Interesting. According to the story, he plays 4th in long jump. He was part of the 4x400 meter relay team that won that event. That's 2. He also won a state title in boys 300 hurdles.
Yep.
And
I believe they had a relay team as well, Chris.
Well, no, he had 2 relay teams. They won one, and then he also placed 2nd in the 110 meter hurdles. So he may have been the most prolific.
I'd like to know who scored the most points in that tournament. He'd have to be right up there.
Right. I'm talking from our state. I mean, as you said, looking for we have our state winners. And again, anybody who even qualified for the state, what outstanding accomplishment.
And the Lowellville boys, I do believe, finished as the state runner-up team-wise too, Chris.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they were state runner-up. So congratulations to the Rockets. What a great tournament.
Well, and you had what Bologna did. You also had Drew Moleski, who placed 7th in 200 meters. So it wasn't just Bologna. You had a bunch of kids doing well for him. So, a really good year, too. And again, our apologies go out to West Branch. It's nothing against West Branch. It's just there's so much to talk about. Usually, sometimes we have slow weeks in high school where we move on to the Guardians or whatever by minute 10. But, man, we're in minute 53, and we're getting to another state qualifying team, West Branch. I heard they had a walk-off hit to be a state champ, and they're going to be in the state semifinals themselves now.
Right. I covered both their games last week, Chris, and they beat the defending state champs 2-1 in the regional title game to get this week's state meet and our state tournament, and it was just a big crowd over at Thurman Munson Stadium in Canton, and West Branch is going to state baseball for the first time in 51 years. The last team was 1973. They were state runner-up that year. to St. Paris Graham. They beat the Philo Electrics in the semifinals and then lost to St. Paris Graham in the finals. But, they've got a great team. They've got, Bo Alizos, the 6'6" pitcher for the Warriors, who was the quarterback in football, who made All-Ohio in football. He's just had a tremendous tournament. His ERA is under 1 this year, Chris. And when he's on the mound, and he'll be on the mound Friday when they're in the state semifinals against Indian Creek. Boy, when they have him on the mound, it's like we were talking in softball. When you have those great pitchers on the mound, you've got a shot in any game.
Yeah. Well, and quite confident about West Branch too, because we talked about it too. They have a stud in Alizos, and you have to have a deep pitching staff, and
you do, and they've got a good number too, and Anthony Perry too, who's undefeated as a pitcher as well.
And I know it's different, like with softball. Like Kernan was telling me, he has 4 kids that could pitch, but sometimes we get lucky and have that outstanding person. You can go with 1 most of the year, but baseball, you have to.
You got to have those 2. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, at least usually, 2, 3.
That's right. Teams that go the deepest in the playoffs usually have the strongest second pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, definitely. So another thing that we should talk about, again, real busy week, good week for high school sports. You've got a pretty busy week upcoming. I know you emailed me so we could plan from news coverage, but I'll let people know where you're headed this week.
Yeah. Well, Thursday night, we've got football. We got football in early June. Yeah. The annual Jack Arbin Classic is going to be held Thursday night at 7:00. It's going to be at Mineral Ridge this year. They alternate that between a Trumbull County site and a Mahoning County site every year. Well, it's Trumbull County's year to host it. That's going to be at 7:00 Thursday night at Mineral Ridge. And I'm going to be there to cover that. That's always a great game. I covered that game at Canfield last year, and the Columbiana Mahoning team beat Trumbull 24-0 in that game last year. But all the talent you get to watch on there. When you think all the great talent around the Mahoning Valley area, and to all see it on the field one last time, it's really an honor and a joy to watch those kids. So it should be another good one on Thursday night. The head coaches for this year's game are Nathan Broad from Jackson Milton. Blue Jays had a real good year last year. And then Brian Shaner is the head coach. I take that back. Brian Shaner is the head coach of the Trumbull team. Nathan Broad is the coach of the Columbiana Mahoning team. That's how that's going to play out this year. So a lot of talent all the way around that game. Looking forward to it. I never get tired of football. I'm ready for football in June.
Yeah, no, it should be good. And then you'll be at West Branch next weekend.
On Friday afternoon, West Branch will play in the state semifinal baseball tournament against Indian Creek, who won the East Regional crown last week. So that should be an interesting matchup. And Indian Creek has some deep pitching like West Branch does. So, that should be a good one on Friday afternoon at 1:00. That's going to be at Canal Park, the Rubber Duck Stadium in Akron. And then if West Branch would win that game, they would play on Sunday morning. How about that for a twist? Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Back at Canal Park in Akron if they get through the semifinal game on Friday. So a lot of things, we're in June now. You think the high school season, but we still got some teams going real strong here.
Yeah, and something else I need to bring in, because I know it's something that Mike and I were kind of questioning, and I'm sure a lot of other sports staffs were questioning around the state. With the 7 divisions, people were like, how the heck is it going to make it work? I'll give you a practical example. I was up in Akron for the softball tournament. Well, you had a quadruple header on Thursday for 2 of the division's semifinal games. Yeah, another quadruple header on Friday, another group, and then you had another quadruple header with all the state final games all at one time. So the question comes, how the heck are you going to do 7? I talked to Tim Strider over the weekend. They haven't made any official announcements, but he was saying the thought process was, assuming it's in Akron, which I'm assuming a softball would be.
They do a great job.
You could also play at different venues around Akron, where you can still have those games. You can still probably have a Thursday, Friday, Saturday thing, but the semifinals could be split up. Maybe a couple of venues as well as Firestone Stadium. So they'll make it happen, and they'll make it happen to a point where you wouldn't have to have 6 games a day at one place or not to make it work.
Right. Yep.
And I would guess that the same thing would happen in football. I mean, well, you already had 7 with football, so they've gotten that
Right,
figured
yeah.
out. But I'm thinking like for basketball and some of these other sports are going to see a big jump. You
Yeah.
might see other venues come in. So
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think you have to. I think that's just, yeah, I think, yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that's what they're going to have to do.
yeah, and I think it'll be good. And again, I don't know softball locations in Akron intimately, but I
Oh,
mean,
there's some nice fields in Akron, throughout
okay,
Akron.
good,
Very
good.
nice fields. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot you can do with it, and I'm sure there'll still be a big batch of semifinal games that are being played at Firestone. Maybe you might see maybe some 5, 6, and 7 games at some of the smaller locations. Then you can still have your quadruple headers at Firestone. So.
Yeah, I love Firestone Stadium too, Chris. You think of the history there. Babe Ruth batted in that stadium at one time back in the day, exhibition game. When you think you're stepping to the plate in a state softball tournament and you're standing where Babe Ruth once stood and batted. I mean, think about that. That's great.
Yeah, no, it was neat. I'll tell you, a good. It definitely had some history to it. It had some updated features to it too. Very loud there. I haven't covered games for a while. The music was kind of loud the whole game, but hey, I'm almost 50, so maybe I'm turning the old man from everybody. But no, good location. OHSSA did a great job. Man, the mild media were there. I mean, you're thinking not just people like us who cover from publications. A lot of TV and radio were there. I was impressed. I didn't know if they've done this that much before, but for those of you, and we'll mention here, and I'll probably mention in a story before Saturday or before this weekend, they put the games on internet radio. So if your home location doesn't have a broadcast crew going to Akron or for the state Final Four, you can listen to it. I mean, they've got one that you can listen to online. It was really helpful for me. I know there were a couple of games where I had to kind of type in my story while listening to the game in the back press room. So it helps us media folks like us, but I'm sure it'll help other people like you guys that may not be able to go to the game and want to still check it out. I'm sure that's where I'll be on Friday, checking out West Branch and seeing how they're doing too. So should be good. Well, we are over an hour, so we're at time. But anything, I'm sure next week. I mean, we're really down to the baseball season ending up, so we'll have more time to talk about the regional stuff. Was there like a headline that stuck out from non-high school stuff over the past week?
Well, I think the other thing is the Guardians. Look at how the Guardians season, they are just tremendous. They're a fun young team to watch. They're aggressive. They hit a lot of home runs, and I don't think anybody saw this coming. They're just having a tremendous year. And they finally gained a little bit of ground, I believe, on the Royals in the past week, because Kansas City was right there step for step with them. And then they gained a little bit of ground on the Royals. But I think the Cleveland Guardians, that's a wonderful story that's brewing in Cleveland.
Well, and you think of I think we were talking about this last week. You think of previous seasons, they have always, contended for a division, but sometimes they were a couple steps behind record-wise. But they're right up there at the top of the American League.
They are, and that's with a balanced schedule too, Chris. I mean, they're playing the best of the best. It's not like they're playing everybody from the AL Central. They're playing the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Orioles and the Red Sox, and and they're doing this with a balanced schedule. That's very impressive.
Yeah, the Yankees are about 2 games up on them, but again, the Yankees are like 42-19.
Right. I think the Indians at last check had the second or third best record in all of Major League Baseball.
I've got the standings up in front of me. Let me double check that. Yeah, it's third in all of baseball. Yankees have the top. Phillies are right behind them.
Yep.
Yeah, but they're number 3, and we're 59 games in the season.
Right.
It's one thing where you say, hey, they had the first 10 games look good or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we're 59 games into it. Obviously, it's a 162 game season, but these are trends. These aren't just a hot start or whatever the case might be.
Yep.
So definitely good, and I'm sure we'll have a little more time to talk about that next week. The other big thing, I just heard rumors the Cavs are starting to talk to more people. They don't seem to be super close to a decision, but you're hearing more and more names on it. Latest guy I saw right beforehand, one of the Timberwolves assistant coaches He's a Ohio native. They got permission to talk to him. This guy's also talking with the Lakers about their head coaching vacancy. So you're seeing more and more names go out there. So I'd be interested to see what happens there.
It'll be an interesting summer for the Cavs, and an important summer for the Cavs. I think, they need to hit a home run, whoever their selection is as head coach. And I think you're going to see a trade or two with that team because, they've got two centers. Do you trade one of the centers? Do you trade one of the guards? You've got two guys who are basically the same player. Do you trade one of those guys to strengthen an area you think that's going to take you to the next level? So it's going to be an interesting summer for the Cavs.
ESPN analyst Brian Windhorst said it. He said he'd be surprised if all four come back.
Right.
You wonder if part of the thing is going to be what happens with, they can't wait for the coach, but you almost want the coach to have a say in it too. So
right. Absolutely.
I wonder if that's going to hurt the coaching selection or not. So.
I don't know, but I think that's going to be the first domino to fall. They need to get their head coach in and then, have some discussions with him and then some of the player movement. Right. I'll be surprised if it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, because part of it is there's been some talk saying, hey, the Cavs need a better offense. The offense is lagged at times. Well, you definitely, if you make a trade, you want to make sure the new coach is on board with whoever you bring aboard.
Yep, so, absolutely. Yep.
Sounds good. Well, Mike, let's hang out for a minute afterwards. We got to talk about the plan for next week. But thank you so much for Steve Ward, Michael Kernan coming on. There are 2 state champion softball coaches. And again, so many of the softball teams had great years too. Thanks for having me come aboard. And like I said, thanks for checking out our Mahoning Matters Sports Show. Have a great day, everybody.